Good evening, everyone. How is everybody doing?
We are doing good.
Yeah, we are fine. Good
Doing
evening,
great, Doc.
Pretty good. Great. Sorry for the low wait. There was a little technical issue going on here. So we are going to start off where we left off last week. Last week the discussion was about interview. We're talking about interview prep, and we had a panel talking about the experience during the interview process and how they got jobs. And kindly mute yourselves. So tonight we are going to continue or with this is going to be the last session of the interview prep, and we still have our panel members coming in. They will be joining us a bit later, but there is a lot for us to discuss as a group. Anyways, when it comes to interviews, and there were a lot of some good points that were made last week that we are still going to revisit and then polish up on those as well. So kindly give me a minute whilst I finalize everything, and we are going to kick it off time in the next 2 minutes. All right, I think we are good to go. So you all welcome to Eretmis Cyber Chat. I'm Dr. Emmanuel Edu, and we do this every Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. And we appreciate your time and your effort, and then also the time you put into developing yourselves as security professionals. So we are kicking off our topic for tonight is still going to be a roundtable discussion talking about cybersecurity interviews, interview questions, how to prepare yourself, and also how to answer some of these interview questions. Tonight's focus will predominantly be on answering the questions and the intent or the goal behind every question that is being asked. That is something that you have to, know to be able to answer the questions correctly. All right. So we are going to start off with our cyber news, and then we will move into our topic for discussion. And you are welcome to Eretmis Academy if you are new to the family. I'm Dr. Emmanuel Ledoux. I'm going to be your instructor for tonight. And I'm a former United States Army captain. I'm the CEO of Eretmis Inc., a cybersecurity consulting firm, and a QSA company based out of New York, and also the founder of Eretmis Academy. And I used to be a professor at University of Maryland Global Campus and CTC, Central Texas College. So you are very much welcome. And Eretmis Academy, we are authorized partners with CompTIA. And what that means is that we have a 20% discount that we give to our students and family members who want to sit for any of the CompTIA exams, Security Plus, Security Analyst, and others. And for certificate renewal, if you're on here, you've written Security Plus, Security Analyst, or you have any other cybersecurity certification, you know that every 3 months, every 3 years, you have to renew. So the renewal can be two ways. You can either resit for the exam, or you can choose to use what we call continuous educational points. And we talk about this every cyber chats, just to let you know there are, if you are now looking to sit for certifications or you already have one, when the time comes, you can choose to resit, or you can choose to just use continuous educational points. And what you're going through tonight or joining us, this gives you, I think, 1 point for continuous education. So you can put Team Live in the chat and take a screenshot of it, and that you can use towards your race certification. And Eretmis Cybersecurity Group, we have a WhatsApp group. If you want to join this group, I think we are almost full. So if you want to join, the link will be posted for you to use to join. And also on YouTube, we encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. That is where we post all our cyber chats, and we also stream it live. And for any other cyber chat that you missed, you can always go back to our YouTube channel and rewatch that. So with that, we are going to jump into our discussions for tonight. So if you have any cyber news, get it ready. We are going to give you the floor to talk about it. But we are going to move into our first item for cyber news tonight, and that is a pretty funny one. There was a research that was conducted, and this is what they came up with. So names, if your name, you have Bob or Maria as part of your name, during the research, what they realized was that these two names were the most common names that were found during compromise or during breaches, email breaches. These two names were very susceptible. So if you have Bob as part of your name or Maria, and I think other names, Alex and others also came in. So just some fun facts based on the research that some security professionals did. These names are the most common ones that are found in breaches. Now, Bob and Alice, for those who've gone through security for a little bit, we use Bob and Alice a lot, especially during encryption demonstrations. So if Bob is sending an email to Alice and Alice, maybe probably that has some twist to why Bob is in this list. Now, also for emails, email providers that were, commonly found in breaches, Google, Gmail, is the most used email service out there. So Gmail was on top of the list, followed by guess who, Yahoo, and then Hotmail, I think was the other one. And I think for the research, they looked at 18,000 or those 18,000 breaches that happened that they used for the research, right? So, and they came up with top 10 lists and all that. Now, there are some, what do we take from out of this? It doesn't mean if your name is not Bob or Maria, you are not going to be, susceptible to any of these breaches, or you are not going to find yourself in any of these situations. But what do we learn from this? So I know for professional emails, you mostly your name will be used, your legal name will be used. For non-professional emails, you might want to not use your like your name, your usual name. You can use something else, right? So the advice that we will give you is, if you use your real name in, emails like Gmail and the rest, which are not going to be necessarily your company email or your formal emails, that makes it easier for attackers to, one, for them to spoof your email, and then also for them to uh, uh, pretend to be you. I'm looking for the right, impersonate you. Yes, that is the right word. Impersonate you and use your, and then also they can use that to, trace other things related to you, right? If your name is Emmanuel.edude at Gmail, that makes it very easy for them to know, okay, his first name is this, his last name is that, and they can use that for other type of attacks. So although in the professional setting, your name obviously is going to be used as part of your email, but for your, normal emails that we are using for personal use, we should try as much as possible not to go the route of the professional way. So that is one way to get ourselves out of some of these breaches. But if you have any additions or any advice on this when we open the floor, you can go ahead and also give your take on this. Now, the next one that we are going to look at for cyber news, this is also very interesting. TP Link is a company that manufactures that is into smart, home appliances and smart everything. They make routers, and maybe probably, some of you on here are using TP-Link's routers. Now, they are gradually finding themselves in the same boat like TikTok. And what do I mean by that? So this is a Chinese company, right? They've been in the industry for a long time, right? TP-Link's technology is a Chinese-owned company. They sell a lot of their products in the United States, and now there are two Congress men who are pushing this agenda, similar to what TikTok is, encountering. And the agenda is that since this company is owned by China or it's a Chinese company, the government of China can kind of force their hand to review the information of United States citizens, or to be able to breach United States networks and to be able to get some information that they should not be able to have. So there are two House members who are pushing this. They've already sent a letter to the Department of Commerce. And if you didn't know, in the United States, which government agency is directly in charge of cybersecurity? Right here, U.S. Commerce, Department of Commerce, they are in charge of cybersecurity. Every other institution, is under them. So name it, CISA and others, NIST, NICE, all those institutions, they fall under the Department of Commerce. So they've sent a letter to the secretary on August 13th, and they are requesting that an investigation should be opened on TP-Links because they suspect that they might have some, affiliation, or the Chinese government might be able to use them as a means of, getting information from United States. And they've been selling. They sold over 160 million products that are being used, in the United States, and they sell for their market ranges around 170 countries worldwide. So it's a huge company. And I know some folks on here, if you are using this, so they kind of find themselves in the same boat as TikTok. If this catches on fire, probably going to find themselves, in the same situation, being forced to either diversify or to, sell outright, or they wouldn't be able to have a market, or their product will be banned in the United States. Right. So with that, we are going to open the floor for any cyber chat for the week, that you think is newsworthy, and we are going to jump on. And kindly put where you're joining us from in the chat, and we'll give you some shout outs when we are about to wrap up. So kindly raise your virtual hand if you have any cyber news. Isaac, please go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. I'm pretty sure you've heard about what happened to there's a background checking company based in Florida. It got breached. It has not come out to openly say that it got breached, but it did. Over 29 billion records of different people was exposed, hacked actually. For citizens of the UK, US, and Canada. Their social security, histories, addresses, phone numbers, relatives, and all that. About 277 gigs of data. So how they came to find out about it, this was financially motivated. The bad actors are actually selling the data for the highest bidder. They're looking at getting 3.5 million for the data. So that's what's happening on the dark web.
Wow. And was there any further information about how the breach, how the attackers were successful in breaching this company?
No, they have not yet come out to say how they were actually able to breach this company. And also the company, apparently, it happened in April, but the company has not come out publicly to comment that they were indeed breached. So how it came to be known in the public domain is when this attacker group is called US DOD. Ironically, I know US DOD.
Okay.
Yeah, so when they posted on the dark web that they had this information for sale, and basically they posted, let me say, samples to prove that they actually have this data with them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but they haven't said exactly how they managed to breach the company.
Okay. Thank you, Isaac. So thank you for that. And mostly for us as security professionals, one of the first things that should come to mind is how was that successful, right? Just like how I was asking you. So was it through some social engineering attack, like a phishing email? Was it through, because that is how we learn, and we try to prevent some of these from happening. And I can bet you, I don't know for a fact, but probably through maybe some social engineering, that was successful, right? So Mike, please go ahead. You're muted if you're trying to speak.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Du. With regards to the one you talked about, you said if we have some advice. I mean, on a lighter note, I would say if you're bearing that name, you change it. And if you are thinking about picking that name, don't pick it up. That's for on the lighter note.
Okay.
The news I have is a positive one. NIST has come out with 3 new hashing standards. Encryption standards, and they are FIPS 203, 204, and 205. And this is in line with post quantum encryption. So NIST is saying that this is important because it is trying to ensure that quantum technology will not disrupt our society. So these standards, quantum computers will break the current existing encryption standards. So that is why they brought this up to kind of counter act that. So that I think that's a good thing.
Okay. Yeah. Very. Great point, and great news. I think everybody should go on this website and read more about this. Now there's always that like that discussion about quantum computing, right? Quantum computing is going to take our computers to a whole different level, and that will make it a bit easier for us to crack some of the encryption algorithms that we have already, right? Encryption algorithms, they are as good as to the point where we cannot crack the algorithm. So if we have higher processing power, higher processing speed, chances of us being able to crack those a bit high. So it's good that NIST is coming up with, and I know aside NIST, there are other folks and other researchers, working on other forms of encryption that will gradually probably surface as we are, advancing. So thank you for that, Mike. And with that, we are going to jump into the fun part, interviews and interview questions. If my panel members, those that have been able to join, you can kindly raise your virtual hand, and I'm going to pin you, and then we are going to jump in. But I had some, additional comments from last week that I wanted to talk about whilst we waiting on our panel members to take the floor. And then also for other folks, I think Isaac and others who've been, grandpas in the Eretmis family, who've been here for a while, you can also chime in because you've gone through the process. Isaac has worked, on 2 or 3 more contracts. The contract ended, he had to look for a new job and got one within a week, right? So there are some folks with a lot of tricks up their sleeve. So you can all chime in if you have something on those lines that is going to help the entire group. So last week we okay. So before we jump into the discussion, we are going to go over some of the courses and stuff that we have, but I will want to touch on last week's briefly, and then we will look over the courses we have, and then we will have a panel come in. So last week we discussed that for you to go into any interview and be very successful, you have to speak the cybersecurity language, right? And we discuss what we mean by that, using the right verbiage, using the right terminologies when you are talking about cybersecurity stuff, right? So instead of saying vulnerability, don't say weakness. Instead of saying threats, don't say, like a danger or something, right? Say, use the right words. Don't think you understand it, so you'll be able to explain it in your own words. Don't do that. Every industry has its own lingo, so its own terminologies and how they speak and how they. That is why you can hear two doctors or two nurses speak about a case, and you are just listening to them. They are speaking English, but you have no clue what they are talking about, right? Same way, you should be able to hear two security folks speak, and they are speaking English, but you don't know what the heck they are talking about because they are using their industry language, right? So know the language. That is one. That shows that you really understand what is going on and you can speak the language. And by joining Cyber Chat and all other Cyber Chats that we have and other programs similar to this will help you to keep up to speed when it comes to cybersecurity language. We talked about knowing your resume. So last thing you want to do is to present a resume and they ask you questions about it and you are lost, right? That is not good because you made the resume. They didn't make it for you. You submitted it. That got you the interview. So you should know. I mean, you don't want to look like a moron. You brought a resume and they're asking you something on it and you are totally lost, right? So know the resume, know everything that you have, know it inside out, right? Because it is yours. And then the next thing that we touched on, demonstrate. So demonstrate soft skills, demonstrate technical skills and knowledge. And I think for tonight, we will be discussing why no. So if you keep submitting your resume and they keep saying no, they are moving on, what is happening? And if you went to an interview and they decided to move on, what is happening? Also, there are some other items that we are going to look at, making yourself likable, because employers, you can be the most technical, you can be the most qualified person in an interview. They're still going to move on with somebody not as qualified in terms of technical skills as you, but they'll move on with that person because if they meet the standard, the minimum standard they are looking for, they move on with that person because they probably like that person more than you. We are going to look at all that. That is something that you're not going to hear a lot. But during interviews, even so, if you are the one interviewing and two people, they go head to head. In your view, you're able to get along with them. You can hold conversations with them. Those are the people that, you are going to choose over the other person who might be maybe not as likable in your opinion, right? And then we move on. Yes, so the likable, we have a lot of things to talk about. And we also discuss introducing yourself. Why should they pick you over anybody else or tell me about yourself? Why should we hire you over anybody and everybody else who's applying for this job? Why do you want to work for us? These are some of the things that we discussed. And then also, I think, okay, in my notes on here, there are some other things that we are going to talk about. And the interest and the goals of recruiters and companies, we are going to talk about that also. So tonight, after tonight's session, there shouldn't be any doubts, and you should know you should know your way through the whole entire process. If you're applying to jobs and you are not, the problem is, you should be able to troubleshoot this whole process, right? You're applying, no response, you should know where the problem is. If you are getting a lot of interviews and you are going and they are not moving you to the second stage, third stage, you should know where the problem is. Right. So we are going to help you to break all that down, take everything apart and put it together. So when you are going through this process, you don't get frustrated because you are just, banging yourself against a wall that is not getting out of the way, right? You know what is happening. So okay, I'm supposed to go through the other door or go the other way around, right? So before we jump into our discussion panel, for folks on here who are new to the family, if you are looking to start a career in the cybersecurity industry, our cybersecurity entry-level course is the best course that is going to help you do that. Within the whole entire duration of the training is 4 months, 2 months of training, 2 months of internship, and you don't need any cybersecurity background or IT background. All you need is you should be able to read and write, at least have high school or up in terms of education, formal education, and then also be computer literate, be able to send emails, just move around in the web browser, follow instructions, download simple software and others like that, right? If you have that, then you are more than qualified. We will do the rest, take you from where you are to where you can start working as a security professional, right? So, and we also have one-on-one mentorship, one-on-one assistance as you are going through the training. And the internship is where you really get your hands dirty working on real-world security projects, right? And for folks who are already in the IT space or already in the cybersecurity space, you can look into joining our PCI DSS as a specialty area. PCI DSS is a niche within the cybersecurity space. Probably the most, or is the most arguably the most lucrative space. And we can say this on authority. For us as a school, for this particular course, we have students making upwards of 200K for one job, right? Because they are PCI DSS specialists, PCI DSS compliance managers, and PCI is a whole world on its own. If you are taking a PCI training somewhere and it's a week, 2 weeks, or it's 3 months and they taught PCI, HIPAA, and the rest, that is, you are not learning PCI. It's just an introduction to PCI. We have a PCI DSS for beginners program that will even cover more than you took elsewhere, right? So look into PCI if you already have some cybersecurity IT background and you want to specialize in the cybersecurity space. And then also for folks who have already taken some training, cybersecurity training, you have Security Plus, some other certifications, you did the GRC training elsewhere. If you are missing the real world hands-on, to be able to do the work, what projects have you worked on during interviews? Employers, they want to see or they want to know, hey, what have you done? So if you are describing things you've not actually done, but you read somewhere, they will know. Just like how, even if they are not very technical, you don't have to be technical to know that your doctor that you met at the hospital who examined you, you don't have to be a medical doctor to know what they are talking is. They don't really know what they are talking about, right? We all can, know if you really know what you're talking about or you are just talking, right? So you don't want to go into cybersecurity interviews just talking because you took some certification and you are talking about things here and there, and you are just making a big mess out of yourself, right? You can read about risk assessment all day, but if you've not done it, you've not done it. And this is where you're actually going to be working on all these projects, doing audits, risk assessment, third-party risk assessment, incident response projects, governance, working on policies. This is where you are going to really do all these for 2 of our sister companies. So get into the cybersecurity GRC internship if you are looking for the real world. That way, on the job also, you will be able to function effectively. There are a lot of interns who will move from the internship into their jobs, and it's like they didn't move. They are doing virtually the same thing, right? So look into this also as well. And for our conference that is coming up, still the registration, we are pushing. Kindly go ahead and sign up just to show your intent. The more folks we have, the better it is going to be for us on the planning side, right? So we encourage you to, when we put in the link, go ahead and sign up for this. And with that, we'll move into our panel and we will continue with our discussion. So our panel members, I think I saw Derek. I'm not sure. Vincent will be running a bit late. And we have Emmanuel also joining us. He couldn't join us last week. So Emmanuel, Derek, Joel, I'm not sure if Joel is on here or he's been able to join. But if you are all here, kindly, you can unmute yourselves and let me know you are here, and then we will start the discussion. But as we are waiting for our panel members to get in, when it comes to interviews and job placement, I also have a lot to talk about, right? So if you're on here, panel members, you can kindly raise your virtual hand, or you can, unmute and let us know you are here. Dr. Edu. All right, Emmanuel, thank you. So Emmanuel is here. Let me go ahead and pin Emmanuel. And Derek, I think I saw you in the list. Derek was here. Kindly let me know if you are here, Derek.
Yes, Doctor, I'm here, but my service is very bad. The area where I'm at right now, the service is really, really bad. But I'm here. I'm listening to
Okay, you are
everything
here.
now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And Vincent and Joel, I'm not sure. And then Dawn was also supposed to join us. So as they join, they can also chime in as we're moving forward. So we are going to start off from where we left. We talked extensively about answering some of these soft skills questions. So I'm going to start with some of the questions that I had on here. So if you are applying for a lot of security jobs, right? Somebody will say, I applied for 100 this week. All that I'm getting is, we are moving on. We are sorry, we are moving on. So if you are applying and you are not getting any results, right? If you don't get an interview, don't even think you are applying. Now, reason why they will say they are moving on is what? When you make an application, what do you send to the potential employer that you are looking at, or for the job description that you are looking at? Is your resume, right? So if they are moving on, it means your resume is not working. You have to work on your resume. So if you have one resume and you're just throwing it at all jobs and you're hoping it's going to stick, you are in for a lot of disappointments, right? So now, what you do is, your resume is a living document. You fine tune it as you are going through this process. So apply. If for 2 weeks you are not getting anything, you fine tune it. Now, also with applications as you're applying, don't just be using that resume to apply for all jobs. Make sure you are tailoring your resume to the job, right? And reason why most often you are going to get, we are moving on, is for the job description that you see on there, it has a lot of keywords in there, right? It has a lot of keywords. Make sure you are integrating most of these keywords. If you don't have it already on your resume, you are integrating it in there, because your resume is not going to go to a real person. It goes through an automated system first. The automated system look out for keywords, and then it'll shortlist the resumes with the most keywords, and then a real person, a recruiter or a hiring manager will look at it, right? Because let's say 100 people apply for this, they don't have the time to look at everybody's resume. It's the shortlisted 3 or 4 that they are going to look at. So if you are just applying with one resume and you are not tailoring it to the job, then there's going to be a lot of headache, because you wouldn't get it why they are moving on, and you think, oh, and then also don't get emotional, because guess what? All that is an automated system that has been set up. If they don't pick your resume, the automated email that you're going to get is, we are sorry, we are moving on, right? So it's not like somebody looked at it and they were like, no, you don't qualify. So it's all automated. Once you apply, they will send you something because you are on their list. So for everybody that they didn't select, the system they didn't select, it is going to send that we are sorry, we are moving on. So don't get boo-boo face if you see that. It doesn't mean somebody looked at it and they rejected you. It's an automated system who don't know you that rejected you. So, and they rejected you because you didn't also take time to put in the keywords it was looking for, right? So you have to keep that in mind. Now, that is one. So if you are not getting any interviews, it means your resume is not working. That is simple and plain, right? Because they don't know you, they've not seen you, they've not spoken to you. What you're presenting to them is your resume. So you have to figure out, okay, why is this not working? Am I not tailoring it right? Or is my resume not tailored for any specific role? Am I just a very general resume that I'm using it for everything? If it is too general and you are using it for everything, then it's not going to stick. You are just throwing it, hoping it's going to stick. It is not going to work, right? So, I mean, now you know how that works. If you don't get, we are sorry, we are moving on. You don't get boo-boo face. It's not a human being who looked at it, an automated system. So you move on, right? And make sure you are tailoring your resume as you are applying for these jobs. Now, the second thing that I'm going to talk about, so we will look at the resume side before we move into the interviews. But I think and then also for your resume, on there we have soft skills and technical skills put together. right? So make sure, you know, everything that you are looking for is not a secret. It's on the job description, right? It's on the job description. So make sure you are, you know, making your resume as balanced as possible, right? So don't just look at it this way. Your resume is what you're putting on your hook to catch a fish in the creek or in the stream, right? So you have to know the type of fish that you want to catch. The fish we are talking about here is your employer. So what type of employer are you, or what type of role, you know, that is being posted are you trying to catch? Now you have to know what type of food does that fish eat. So if you are going to catch, I'm not really into fish. I don't know which type of fish is which, but whatever type of fish, they have their own type of food that they want. So if I like pizza and I put pizza on the hook and I put it in the water, it's not going to catch the fish that I want, right? The point that I'm trying to make is the type of food they want is what they put on their job description. So make sure you are putting that on the bait, which is your resume. Put that on your bait and dip that in the waters, and you'll be able to catch. You know, if you dip it 2, 3, 4 times, you'll be able to catch one of those types of fishes that you're looking for, right? If you look at it that way, you're not going to be disappointed. But if you have pizza on your hook, or you put ice cream on your hook because you like ice cream, and you dip it in, and every time you come home empty-handed, don't be boo-boo face. You know, it's you who like fish, and the point I'm trying to make here is don't
Ice
put
cream
stuff.
with water.
Yes. So don't put stuff that you like or you think should be what they are looking for on their resume and think they should pick it, right? I can make my own resume. You have to start off with something. Make one, but then, you know, go out on the job market, look at the job descriptions, you know, integrate that into what you have made already, right? So if you just made one and you put your own keywords and everything and you're applying to a job post, you should know that the job post has its own, you know, what they like. So if you don't have what they like in your resume, they're not going to pick you, right? It's as simple as that. Right now, so with the resume part done, I think we know now when you start getting interviews, what do you do? How do you prepare for it? That was what we were discussing last week. And we talk about speaking the cybersecurity language, you know, knowing your technical stuff, and then also demonstrating your soft skills. And we are going to move into some of the questions during interviews and how some of our panel members went about them. I know last week they were talking about how to go about answering these questions, and some people were asking, okay, so why don't you give us an example, answer it exactly how you answered it during your interview. I think Joel gave us 2 or 3 answers on those lines. But then I also spoke to the effect that, you know, we should learn how to fish, not to be fed, right? And what do I mean? If you know how to break down the question and restructure it, depending on or regardless of what the job description is and what role, you'll be able to frame and come up with your own answers to these questions. So that is why when they are answering, they mostly will go with, this is how I answered it. This is the structure that I used, right? That is also very important for you to learn and know, right? So I think we started with tell me about yourself. Why should we employ you over everybody else? Why do you want to work for us? We talked about all that, I think, briefly. So we are going to jump into other aspects of the soft skill side, and then we move a little bit into the technical side. So where the first question is going to be project management timing. So this is, I think, questions from Joel, some of the questions that he had. And the question is, tell me about the time you had to prioritize risks in your career, and how did you go about it, or how did you go about it, right? So how did you prioritize risks in your career, and how did you go about it? Any of our panel members can give it a shot. how they will tackle this or how they handle this. Since this is like Joel, I'm not sure if Joel has joined us still. But how? So first off, what is the intent behind this question? Like, what are they really getting at? So, but this is open to the whole entire group. What do you think this question is about? What are they looking for? Go ahead, Brian.
Yes, they are looking for organization and how do you handle problems? Like how are you going to handle a situation that comes your way? So I look at it as how organized are you and how are you going to handle the problem?
Okay. Yes. Thank you, Brian. Anybody else? For our panel members, how would you go about answering this? And one, what are they looking for, and how would you go about answering this? Or if you had a similar question, how did you answer it? Jamal, please go ahead.
Hey, Dr. Duke. Yeah, I think they want to see how you prioritize risk and how your logical steps are in resolving the issue. They want to see how you're going to move through it effectively.
Okay. Okay, great point. And so what Jamal and Brian said, right on the money. But one thing also that they are looking at when it comes to this is your line of thoughts, right? Your critical thinking, your analytical skill sets, right? So because for you to be able to prioritize, what is the thought process that goes through prioritizing anything, right? So those are things that they are looking for. So reason why I'm asking what do they want from this type of question is if you know what they are looking for, it's very easy for you to come up with that answer to meet exactly to hit that home run, right? Jamal, please go ahead if your hand is still up or that was from previous.
That was from previous.
Okay. Okay. Brian, please go ahead.
Sorry about that. What I was going to say is one part to answer that question is when they ask you that question, I believe the first part is saying, well, I want to see what's in scope first, to see how I'm going to prioritize the risk. Once I know what's in scope, I will then be able to know exactly what my next steps will be.
Okay, great. Okay, so our panel members, if you're on here, you can also unmute yourself, and I think Derek is still joining again. So Emmanuel, for a question like this, how would you approach it?
Well, for a question like this, like you've all said, you're all looking at your problem solving skills. So how you're going to prioritize risks that are kind of important to the organization. So let's say if we're looking at let's say key risk indicators, and then there's a particular vulnerability that has a criticality of very high or critical, compared to, let's say, we're doing like vendor risk management, and in that case we're trying to integrate a vendor that is using, like, let's say, deprecated data in transit protocols. We would want to prioritize the critical vulnerabilities as in our system at present, because let's say if the right patches are not being applied to it at that particular moment, it could cause a security incident. So that is going to be our number one priority. Or I can even start looking into the vendor with a deprecated data in transit, which is maybe a TLS 1.1. And because he's not integrated into our systems first, so I want to prioritize what is important or critical or necessary at the moment.
Okay. Thank you, Emmanuel. So for such questions, should it just focus on the technical aspect of security, or you can go beyond and get into maybe the people side, leadership, management, soft skills?
I believe it goes across board, because risk can present itself in anywhere along the line. of our security system. And we know we're dealing with people, dealing with management. So yeah, risk can fall along any of those lines. It doesn't have to be just only technical stuff.
Okay. Brian, please go ahead.
Yes, along with that, with the soft skills, I would answer part of that by saying I would meet with some of the stakeholders and other business units to see what their processes are, so we can see what gaps are, if there's any gaps as we do our gap analysis, to determine what risks there are.
Okay, great. And then also for folks who are listening, like, okay, so how exactly do you answer this? With one, you have to understand what they are looking for. Two, I'm going to give you a strategy on how to answer all these questions. And I think I can't recall whom I talked to, but this is a strategy that we use to answer, or that you should use to answer all interview questions, is the STAR method. I know we've talked about this some cyber chats ago. So the STAR method, S is for situation, T for task, A for action, R for results, right? For when you are going into interviews, you should be already well prepared with your scenarios in the STAR method, right? Using the STAR method to answer your questions. Don't go to interviews without any scenarios, thinking you are a good talker. You can talk your way through things. What is going to happen is you're just going to be talking nonsense. That is just the sad truth, right? You have to rehearse, practice with your scenarios. So for this, tell us about a time you had to prioritize risks in your career, and how did you go about it, right? So they are asking you for a scenario. So what is the situation? What situation was at hand? You know, what was the task you were supposed to do? What action did you take? And what was the results? That is what they are looking for, right? And if you have a good, a good number of scenarios, one scenario can answer almost like two or three questions on the list of questions that they want to ask you, right? So with this, where I can, go through and this is how we will be able to approach it. So what is the scenario? Let's come up with a scenario for this. So what was the situation? The situation, a time in your career that you had to prioritize, risks. So prioritizing risks. The goal, what they are looking for here is your analytical thinking and how you go about it. So you can approach it in two ways, either through the soft skill side or through the technical side, or you can do a combination of both, right? So the situation can be that within your organization, we are talking about risks, right? You are part of the security team. You can be, if you're in a leadership role or not, or even if you are doing internship with Eretmis. So the risks, we are going to look at what the risks was. So the situation was that our company, during our audit, we underwent an audit, and we were found to have failed our maybe vulnerability scan, right? And a team of 3. So this is the situation right now. You have failed. That is high priority. And some of the vulnerabilities were critical. So high priority. You are facing this risks within the organization. So this is a situation. Now, what is the tax? The tax is maybe 3 or 4 of you were assigned that responsibility of making sure you go through and you work on these vulnerabilities that were identified, and you make sure within 2 weeks all that is rectified. So all the critical ones are solved and the high ones are solved. Maybe you will be able to get away with some of the lows if we don't have the resources to be able to cover all of it. So now I have my situation. We failed our vulnerability scan. The task here is you've been put in a team, and the team has to rectify the situation within 2 weeks. Now, look at the approach that I'm using, right? The scenario, the situation is there. The approach that I'm using, I'm going the soft skills and the technical skills route at the same time. So once I brought in the team, I'm dragging in the soft skill side. right? So this is the tax we were put together. Our tax was to, mitigate or to remediate, right? Where remediate the vulnerabilities that were identified. What was the action? So situation tax has been established. What was the action? So my team, we hit the ground running. We assign roles and responsibilities, and you can be the team lead or a good team player. Now, your team, you have 2 weeks. If you are the team lead, you prioritize, you went through, came up with timelines or milestones that you're supposed to hit, and you set up your timeline to be a week and 3 days, right? So you're giving yourself maybe 3 days before the deadline to be able to react to any miscellaneous that might happen. So if you are speaking as a team lead, this is some of the things, or maybe you are the project management person as part of the team who was helping to manage this, right? So the action, I'm going into the details of the action. Now, we have the list of vulnerabilities. So you and your team, you went through the list of vulnerabilities. You identified the critical, the highs, and the mediums using the CVV score that was already on the vulnerability scan, right? So for the criticals, there were, if you had 5 or 6, they are all critical. Which ones do you solve first? So that is where, critical thinking in the prioritization side will come in. They are all critical vulnerabilities. Which ones do you solve first? Right. Now, even though they are all critical, some are still critical than others within the critical space, right? They are all critical, but which ones are going to allow attackers to get onto our network? Which ones will just disrupt our services without attackers having the chance to get onto our network? So that is the criteria you use to prioritize. So the ones that would easily allow attackers to be able to breach your network, those ones were also put first, even in the list of the critical ones, right? And that is how you went about arranging all of it, even all the way to the medium and even the lows, right? And you started reaching out to control owners who own, that specific endpoints or systems that have those vulnerabilities on there. And together with maybe networking engineers and, whoever else is responsible, you came up with a timeline also for them when this has to be resolved by, right? So that is the action that you took. So we talked about the situation, the tax, the action. Now, in there, you are demonstrating your technical skills and your technical abilities and your understanding of, vulnerabilities and prioritization and all that. But also, you're also showing your time management skills, and then also showing that you are a good team player, or if you're the team lead, you are a good team leader, communicating with everybody in the team, making sure we follow the time. Now, that is going to be evident when we come to the results. So we went through the situation tax action result, action. What was the result? So my team and I, we were able to complete within the scheduled time for ourselves. So we were able to resolve all these or remediate these vulnerabilities up to mediums. We were able to do it within a week and 3 days. So we're ahead of the timeline that we were given. And we used the rest of the 3 days that were left to also start working on the low vulnerabilities that were identified, right? Our manager, our supervisor was very pleased, and our company, were able to move our company from red into the green, right? And we ended up passing our risk scan, and eventually we passed our audit, right? So you see how one scenario will be able to touch on so many questions that they'll have to skip. So if the next question was, so like there's a question on here, right? Rate yourself 1 to 10 when it comes to leadership. They are not going to ask you that question anymore. They have to skip. Because if this scenario, you were the team lead and you are showing how you went about managing 3 or 4 people to do a task and the result was very good, they are not going to ask you to rate yourself as a leader anymore. And if their next question is, are you a good team player? They have to skip that. Right. If their next question was, how do you prioritize or how do you remediate vulnerabilities? They have to skip that. Because all that has been bundled in one scenario. So scenarios, I mean, you have to go into interviews already prepared with your scenarios and follow the STAR method. Now, I was talking, I think I spoke to someone, I don't remember who, but their interview before they started, the person interviewing him was, hey, answer these questions. You know the STAR method? They were like, yeah, answer your questions using the STAR method. They'll ask you the question and they expect you to go through, okay, situation was this, task was this, action was this, results was this. Right. So that is an old framework that we use to answer interview questions. And in the security space, in the IT space, that will set you apart from everyone. And you'll be able to go through and demonstrate, even for questions that they've not asked, you'll be able to answer questions that they've not asked, right? So with that, we are going to move on. And hopefully this helps. Everybody's learning something from this, right? You have something for your toolbox. Now, let's move into our next question was, tell me about a time you faced a challenge and how you dealt with the challenge. So this also, what is the reasoning behind this question? Are they really interested in the challenge that you faced, really? Or they are picking up something else from the answer you are giving? So they are picking answers for questions that they've not asked you. What is like, if they ask you this question, what really is the science behind it? Like, what are they really looking for? What is the goal of this question? Anyone?
Doc, this is Joe. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, so I think I had this question. I believe they were just looking for how you behave, or like how you're able to work if there's, like, let's say, a challenge in the process, if you are facing some challenge, if you are facing a pushback from other teams, if there is a cross-functional team, how you behave, how you're able to maneuver your way. Are you weak? Are you soft? Are you able to overcome challenges? So, like you said before, you just have to have a scenario in your head, which is going to make you stand out in all these questions that they will ask. For me, like, I think I answered this question in a way that we're doing at my time at one of the banks. We were doing I was actually tasked in leading a high trust, audit for the first time, and I hadn't done it before. I hadn't led a team before, so how was I going to do it? But I quickly had to, assemble a team, and then.
So Joel, if you can slow it down a little bit and walk us through. So what was the situation, and then give us the tax, action, and results, just like how you answered it during the interview.
Yeah. So
actually, this is Joel's question that I'm reading through.
Yeah. So I'm just driving, but I'll do my best. I was
okay.
Yeah. I told them, I just pick a scenario. I mean, it didn't exist anyways, but I had to pick a scenario that happened in one of the banks where I was working. So I think I went this way. During my tenure at during my time at this bank, I was tasked with leading the high trust audit for the first time. The challenge was the tight deadline that we were given, and we were also dealing with controls that were very complex, because it was the first time we were actually working on an audit like this. So we had to quickly put a team together, and I'll start to lead a team, and I was able to put about 3 people together, delegated everybody's responsibilities and all of that, making sure everybody is working on what they are supposed to do, if they know what they are supposed to do. And I had to touch a little bit on being able to communicate with everybody, during the project, and being there to support them. And I also, created a detailed, timeline and milestones, to track whatever project or whatever responsibilities I gave everybody. For me, the most difficult aspect was me leading a team for the first time because I hadn't done anything. Because they said a challenge, they didn't specifically give you what challenge you face. They just threw the question at you like that. So when ending the question, I told them the most difficult or the challenging part was me leading a team for the first time. But by staying organized and focused, we were able to complete the audit on time, and everything was a success. That is how I answered it. And I think, for me, what they were looking for was, well, are you able to, lead in the midst of challenges? Are you able to, lead when they call you for the first time? Or, are you able to show up to the table when you are picked randomly to do something? So that is how I answered it. I don't really recollect everything, but I remember I just created a scenario where we're doing a high trust audit for the first time, and I was picked randomly to lead the team. But then after everything, it was a success. That is how
Okay.
I that's the only thing I
You
can
answered it.
recall.
Okay,
Yeah.
Joel. Thank you. Brian, please go ahead.
Yes, I think that question is trying to get an understanding of your critical thinking skills.
Yes. Yes, very true. And then also how to demonstrate your resilience, right? So Joel, good pick. And then also going about this, good. So if you always go with a STAR method, like I said, you're never going to go wrong, right? And that helps you to think through your questions. That really helps you to think through. But you have to go, like I was saying, prepared. Go in prepared with these questions, because these kind of questions, they go even beyond cybersecurity, right? You can go to an interview for anything, and they ask you, "Hey, tell me, give me a scenario or a situation where you sold an idea to your manager," right? Once you finish, they can give you another scenario. Okay, give me a scenario where you influenced your senior or your manager to do something they otherwise wouldn't have done. And they'll ask you another question that kind of follows almost the same format, right? And you think it's almost the same, but it's not almost the same if you don't prepare for it, right? So if you have different scenarios, or sometimes you can even give them a scenario and they're like, okay, give me another scenario, like give me another situation where you still did this. Now you are stuck, right? So you have to go in really prepared, because if you get interviews, don't treat it lightly, right? It's an opportunity for you to, even if you don't like the job, but you just want to go for the interview just for the interview's sake, you have to make sure you are not going to waste the time of the person interviewing you, and you are not wasting your own time also as well, right? So go in 120% prepared, 150% prepared, right? So with that, we are going to the main goal, or the main what they were really looking for, actually, aside what the question is asking, is your critical thinking, and also how you persevere in the face of challenges, right? So the next question. Tell me about a time you made a mistake whilst you were implementing a control, and how did you go about this? How did you go about this mistake, and how did you do to help the overall process? What did you do to help the overall process? What is the real intent behind this question? Tell me about a mistake that you made whilst you were implementing a control. What did you do about the mistake that you made, and how did it all play out? What is the intent behind this? Anyone? Go ahead, Brian.
I think part of this could be an accountability question to
Yep.
see if you are accountable for your actions, because we all are going to make mistakes. So, were you accountable for what you did wrong?
Yes. So it's an honesty, accountability, and also trying to see how you bounce back. But anybody else has any take on this one? And for our panel members, I know Brian, we're working with Brian tonight also as well. Derek, Joel, you can also chime in. How would you go about answering this? We know you are using the STAR method, but how would you go about answering this? And then also for the whole entire group, if anybody is on here and they want to give it a shot, right? When we ask the question, you can now start doing your situation tax action results. Give it a shot and let's say, let's see where you are, to say, okay, that is good, or polish up on this side. We are all here to learn, right? So, Derek, how would you go about this, or what do you think they're actually looking for in this one? And then if Joel, you are still able to speak, I'm not sure if you are using a Bluetooth or you are just using your phone directly. But if and when you are able to, you can always chime in. So any of our panel members want to jump on this one? And then whilst we wait on this one, how would you rate yourself? Okay, that was the leadership one. How do you balance work-life balance? Okay, that's a tricky one. And tell me a little bit more about you aside what you have on your resume. Okay, so anyone want to give it a shot? If you want to answer this head on, even if you are not prepared, anyone want to take a bold step and give it a shot? Brian, please go ahead.
I'll go ahead. Well, there was a time that working in data privacy, I was tasked to update the cookie policy. So when I took the script of the cookie policy and I sent it over to the person that is developing the website, I accidentally sent the wrong information, the wrong script. So the reason I found out is that when a web developer had emailed me, they said the script that you sent me had produced the language in, it was a different language. So I said, oh, I'm sorry about that. I'll get that fixed right away. So what happened was I didn't do a checklist of what I was supposed to put for that script. So this time around, I made sure that I did my checklist and found the right language for that script. And then I sent it back to the web developer. And then we confirmed that that was the right language and the right script, and everything went good. And so now, how I learned from that mistake is to make sure I do my checklist and then also confirm with that web developer.
Great. Uh, great answer on the fly. Anybody else want to give it a shot? And our panel members, when you are ready, you can also jump on this one. And this was like, these were questions for Joel, right? So, and also on work-life balance. So we're gonna move on to work-life balance. How do you balance work life and family life, right? This is a tricky one. How do you balance work life and family, right? What is the intent behind this question?
And is to check whether you will be able to work out of normal hours as well for the company.
Okay. Yes. Jamal, please go ahead.
Yes, I think that they also want to know your mental state. I think you have to, it's good to be able to work overtime, but if you're working too much, you'll burn out. So you have to know when to shut it off as well. You have to have some times, or you have to respect your own time, your health, your mental attitude, you have to spend time with family. All of this works, synergistically for your well-being, and the company's well-being is also because if you're stressed out because you have such a work overload and everything's work, you're not going to be doing your best for the company as well. And your family's going to suffer. So it's a life balance.
Yes. Anybody else? Mike, please go ahead.
I think this has got to do probably a little bit with time management. So, I mean, if you are able to manage your time well, you will be able to, put in the right perspective when to do your job responsibilities, so that there wouldn't be like conflict between your job and your like your private life, where you be carrying what do you mean, like work to home, or your family issues are causing you to delay on projects that are supposed to be completed at work. So I think this is about more of time management.
Okay. Eric, please go ahead.
I think they want to know how productive you are, because in life you have to balance. If you don't have that balance, you will not be able to be very productive, because you have to balance your family life and your work life, because it works hand in hand.
Yes. Thank you. So they are asking you this question, right? And one thing that we also have to know, and that is what I want us to, and we've been trying to do, right? If they have 10 questions that they are asking you, there are 10 more questions that they are not going to ask you. So whether you get the job or you don't get a job, or whether they move you to the next stage or they don't move you to the next stage, it is not based on the questions that you answered. It is based on the questions that they didn't ask you. And how do you know the questions that they didn't ask you? These questions, if you know the reasoning behind the question, that is the question they didn't ask you, right? So they are asking you about how do you balance work and family? The question they're asking is, how do you balance work and family? What is the intent behind that question? That is a question they are not asking you, right? So they might be looking for 3 or 4 main things. If you hit all those things, they are like, okay, yep, he met that criteria. So what they are looking for is just like what Eric just said. They are not necessarily concerned about your family and work necessarily, but they just want to see how you balance things, how you're able to, you don't get narrow vision, or you don't get tunnel vision on one thing. You're able to see a bigger picture. So you're able to, apply yourself in different scenarios and still be able to function effectively without you, like everybody said, burning yourself out. So if you are somebody who is able to manage work and life well in their company, because guess what? They're asking you all these questions not because they love your family or they want you to take care of your family. They don't care about you and your family. What they care about is their company and the money that they are going to make, right? But they ask you these questions to see your line of thought. How would you balance work and life, your family and work? So if you're able to say something that falls in line with the question they didn't ask you, okay, this is what I do, how I prioritize work and family. So I do ABC, and then for family, I do ABC. This is the line I don't cross. If this is done, after work is done, I make sure I do almost everything that has to be done. And then when I leave and I get home, if I'm home, I'm home. If I'm work, I'm at work, right? So they know, okay, so this person, one, you have some strong values. You value work, you value family. That translates into everything else that you do, right? So these questions, we are taking time to go through these soft skills questions because you can ask everybody on here who has gotten a job. These are the questions that will make or break you in an interview. It's not the technical side of the house, most especially when you come through Eretmis. It's not the technical side. This is what is going to get you if you don't practice and if you don't know what they are really looking for, right? Some cyber chats ago, I think like 3 years ago, we're doing a session like this. And I think I remember very well who that was. One of our students who was applying for jobs that time came up, hey, Dr. Edu, and everybody was on here. I applied for a job, and during the interview, the lady didn't ask me anything, but the next day she said she's moving on with somebody else. And I'm like, so what happened? Right. During the interview, she was asking me just a casual conversation. She was asking me about, where I went to school and why I did this and, the weather and kids and stuff. And the next day she's like, well, we are moving on with somebody else. He was waiting for cybersecurity questions. She never asked him any cybersecurity questions. And next, she's moving on with somebody else. And I'm like, okay, so all the questions she was asking you was not some casual conversation. They sound casual, but what you were hearing were not the questions that she was picking answers for, right? She will ask you, why did you choose to go to this school? How many schools were you considering? Oh, I considered this school and that school. Was why did you go to this one? Well, Eric was my best friend and he went there. So, I mean, I decided to go to. What they are actually asking there is not the school. They don't care about the school you went to. They are looking at your reasoning, your analytical, skills. So if you just went because your friend went, you are not really analyzing things that deep, right? So that, they just, graded you 0 on that. But you answered, they smiled, oh, okay, that is good. And then they move on to the next question, asking you about your kids, your family, what you do, and you think it's just a normal conversation. And next, they are moving on with somebody and you are so pissed. I mean, why? Because they didn't ask me. And all that forms part of what they are looking for in the cybersecurity space. So the soft skills side that is going to make or break you, right? I can tell you countless number of students, they landed jobs because they were well polished on the soft skills part. And they'll tell you this is the most difficult part of an interview. The soft skills part, what we are doing now, is the most difficult part of any interview that you're going to go to. For technical, you know it or you don't know it, right? Soft skills is subjective. So you have to really understand what is going on to be able to nail it, right? All right, so with that, we move on to the last question on Joel's list. And that was, tell me a little bit more about yourself, aside what you put on your resume. What are they looking for here? Is it still the same as tell me about yourself, or they are looking for something else? Anyone? Is this still about tell me about yourself, or this is totally different? Go ahead, Brian.
I think the reason that this question would come up is because you haven't sold yourself enough yet for them to skip this question. Because if you have sold yourself enough, they wouldn't ask this question again. I believe that the first time they ask it, and then as they go through your skills, your soft skills, your technical skills, and how you handle problems, your organization, and things like that. Once it gets to that point and they ask you again, so tell me more about yourself, I believe in most times you haven't sold them enough yet. They're trying to get some more from you.
Okay. Yes. Anybody else? So, rightly so, just exactly like what Brian said. Jamal, please go ahead.
Yes, I think they also want to see how you're going to fit into the group. If you're someone that stays out, maybe you go to bars or you tell them you like to hang out in bars or party a lot, you might not fit in with the rest of the team because they want you to be able to fit in with the team. It's not just about you. It's about how you're going to fit in with the team.
Yes. Eric, please go ahead.
I think they also want to know about your social life, how you live your life apart from work, because that also counts mentally and how stable you are and stuff like that.
Yes. Thank you. So, what I also want to add is, for all interviews in the cybersecurity space, because that is what we are doing now, they are not looking for just somebody who can do the job. Like Jamal said, they are looking for somebody who will fit in the organization well, you should be able to do the job. But the most important is, are you a good cultural fit for our organization? Right? That is paramount to just being able to do the job. Anybody can do the job, but if you can't fit in the organization, you are going to be ineffective, right? So one thing that I wanted to touch on last week also is the intent of whoever is going to interview you. Joel, did you have something to add to this?
Oh, yeah, I was going to say most of the time I believe they ask such questions because it's not necessarily, because you haven't sold yourself well to them. Probably they just want to assess your communication skills. They want to see how well you articulate your experiences, motivations, and let's see if you have any career path, how you're going to put them. They want to understand probably your personality, like what the other brother said, like can you fit in a group or like the team? And then at times they also want to find out what motivates you, what your goals, and aside work, do you have any, let's say, are you doing anything to upgrade yourself, outside work and all of that? So it's not, necessarily about, you having sold yourself, or because remember when they actually tell me about yourself, you are putting a lot of technical stuff in there, telling them about things that are relevant to the job you have applied for. You are just trying to sell yourself, but outside that, the person might be trying to find, certain things, like you said, outside a job responsibility. So it's not necessarily that maybe you haven't sold yourself well, but maybe they just want to find certain things. They just want to evaluate your self-awareness and all of that, And this I help, like, this, I believe it's an opportunity to, for you to also create, let's say, a narrative, that ties your, like it bridges your past experience and what you stand to achieve in the future or something. And, you also chip in some personal stuff. So that's what I wanted to say.
Okay. Yes. And kindly hold one. Right. Yes. So this question can lead into a lot of other stuff, like Joel rightly pointed out, but it can also go back to what Brian was also talking about. So maybe probably they are giving you the opportunity, if you probably didn't sell yourself well in the first part of this, well, tell me about yourself and all that, you have the opportunity to, sell yourself again, right? So great point. Now, what if they ask you what interests you in this position? Like what made you interested in this? Like what about the job description made you interested in this position? What are they really looking for? Or is that a trick question? And this is a natural question that somebody got. What, made you interested in this question, in this job? Jamal, please go ahead.
Well, they're looking to see what you can contribute to the team, basically. They want to know if you're passionate about that position. Like you were saying, last week, it's not about what the company can do for you, but how you're going to fit in, how you can benefit each other. If you're passionate about the position, you're most likely going to do a much better job. And you can tell them the value that you're going to bring to the company. That's what they're looking for.
Great. Yes. Brian, please go ahead.
Yes, to go along with what Jamal said, also they are looking to see what do you know about the company? What do you know from the job description, and have you researched us? And why are you so interested in working for us when there's other companies out there? So they're just trying to get a feel of, okay, are you just here for money, or are you here because you see something special about our company that you see, that you feel that you would be a great fit for us?
Yes. So right on the money. So like I said last week, for job interviews, look at it as marriage interviews, right? So why do you want to marry me? Or why do you think I'm going to be the best? Why do you think you are going to be the best partner for me in life? Right. Look at it from that perspective. I think like that will make it more clearer, right? Let's not get too much into the money aspect. Yes, the money is good. You want the money, but really it goes beyond the money. They are ready to give you the money. Why should they give that to you rather than somebody else? Right. So what interests you in this position? Like Jamal and Brian said, you should be able to speak to something specifically about the company, about the role that makes you more passionate about, this job and what you are bringing to the table. Jamal, please go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to swing back around to the previous question as well as this question here. So for this question, when you're doing the interview process, I don't think this is the time to talk about money. I think those are two different functions. You get through the interview, you talk to business, what you can contribute to the company, what value, and see what the match is between you and the company. And then the money will come up later. And that's another conversation. HR or someone else generally handles it, at least from my experience.
Yes.
The other thing is, as far as, when they're asking about your personal life, who you are and everything, I have a little bump that I run into, and I'm wondering if you can give me some insight on how to handle it, because fitting in is important. I'm asked about sports a lot, and I don't watch football or basketball. So I always get kind of left like, they ask, hey, do you watch sports? And I'm kind of like, not much. I do watch some. I like boxing and MMA and so forth, and I'll share that, but it's not quite the same. So what do you think a good way of handling that situation? Because it's kind of awkward.
Yes. So I think you rightly, like, you are handling it right. The accent about sports, you talk about the sports that you like, right? Because if you want to go into the space of what they like, and they want to go down and they are so excited and they keep asking you questions about the last game last Sunday and you have no clue because you didn't watch it, then everything all the hard work that you've done so far to this point, you are just throwing it away because now you are gradually getting into a space showing that you don't have credibility, right? So yes, if it comes to other life events, and just talk about what you know, right? So if it's sports, talk about the sports that you know, right? All of us cannot necessarily, I mean, if majority is just following football and you are following something else, that also brings some perspective and some uniqueness, right? But then you can also chip in, hey, I do watch basketball, once in a while, maybe when they are doing like the championships, or, and if you have maybe, one team that can be your favorite team for that interview, right? Just move on. But aside that, to be a cultural fit is not only liking what they like, but what they want to see is mostly to be a cultural fit, you are somebody who is open-minded, you have great interpersonal skills, you have empathy, and you are willing to learn, right? You are willing to get out of your comfort zone and your own space to be able to learn, right? There are some people who, I mean, for folks who've been in our internship programs, there's always going to be that one person or those two people in your group. If all of us agree to go left, they always will say, no, we are going right, just for the sake of it, right? If you're that person and you are in an interview and that is so obvious, obviously they are not going to go with you because they don't want to be wasting their time for you dragging them back every time they are going for it. You're dragging them back with some nonsense, right? So to be able to fit in, even during the interview, it shows, during the interviews, and I was going to get into that, making yourself likable. So we can all start with a smile, even if it's on the phone. If you smile on the phone, it really translates in your voice, right? If you are speaking and you are smiling, somebody, like, they can feel it, they can hear it in your voice. If you are on the other side and you are angry, it shows in your voice, right? So you smile. During interviews, if it is one-on-one, it is video, you make yourself pleasant as possible, right? I know it's a serious interview, but still, you have to, ease up a little bit. Don't be too tense. Although there's a little bit of stress here, but try to make yourself as likable as possible, because they are always going to go with somebody they like. You can be the most technical person. You can do the job with your eyes closed. If you don't make yourself likable, they are not going to give you the job. Brian, please go ahead.
Yes. I think with that question Jamal was talking about, like when people bring up sports, they're not only looking at the social part, but also how it works into the job. And what I mean by that is, with sports, there's adversity. With sports, there's competition. With sports, you have to be organized. With sports, you have to have social skills. So there's so many aspects of how you tell your story with sports that when he finally frames his story the way that he wants to frame it, it will be able to give him a chance to talk about, like, if it was boxing, like, the reason I love boxing is because they have to work out so hard and when it's so competitive, and that when that person gets knocked down, they try to have so much strength to get right back up, and I love when they get back up again and just keep trying and trying. So that question is amazing to me because it can also be framed towards job as a job as for the job as well.
Yes. So, I mean, every question that you get is an opportunity for you to hit a home run. All right. Jamal, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. That is another perspective. I appreciate that. And I'm going to parlay that the next time with the boxing and the MMA. I'll spin off of that, so I will use it. Thank you.
You're welcome, man.
So, Dr. Du, I had another situation. I did an interview, and I had 2 Zoom meeting interviews, and I was smiling. You know, I put on a nice collar shirt, and I smile 'cause I'm naturally like that. But they didn't let me see them. What was that about? Neither of them. So they were looking at me, and I had no idea what they looked like. And I sat through a whole hour interview, not knowing who I was talking to. So were they doing something that I wasn't aware of?
Okay, so if they were not trying to trick you or trying to see how you're going to behave in that situation, because that can throw you off, right? You're in a Zoom meeting, you are all, prepared, you have your tie, your suit, everything on, and they don't show your face, right? That kind of can throw you off if you don't take care of it. And that is going to translate into how you answer your questions and stuff because you still have that at the back of your mind. But probably that wasn't, to trick you or anything. They are the ones doing the interview, right? So maybe they decided, or they didn't have a good background, or they were probably in their pajamas or something doing the interview, right? So it can be a whole number of things, but you are the one who is going to, sit for this, who needs the role, right? Not them. So even if they don't show their face, I wouldn't really be much worried. But I'm going to show my face and let them see how good and how personable you are, right? So they can see you. That is the most important. But I don't think that was like to trick you or to throw you off. But that I can see where that can throw you off because you're expecting to see somebody, right? You are showing your face, so they should also show their face. But they are the ones on the other side, so you are trying to join them on where they are. So I think they have an upper hand in that case. But mostly that shouldn't throw you off, right? That shouldn't.
Thank you.
So hopefully that helps.
It didn't. It didn't, and I actually was successful with the interview. I just
great.
was wondering, was it some kind of tactic that I wasn't aware of? That was the first time that I had an interview on Zoom and they didn't show their faces. I'm sitting there, I'm waiting for them to come on. I'm like, really? I said, okay. You're gonna be like that?
Yes. And like I said, for these interviews, if you go in well prepared, smiling, make yourself likable. Get that, that I'm going to keep stressing on that. They will always, and not they, put yourself in the shoes of those doing the interview. You are going to pick somebody you like. Somebody can come in, they've answered everything. They are the most technical. They can do the job, hands down. You're still not going to go with them because you are uneasy about them. They are how they are presenting themselves and their demeanor, right? I was so true, like really true example for myself. There was this company that I was supposed to do a contract for, right? This was even outside Eretmis. This was going to be like a personal consultant that I was doing for them. And I had to talk to 3 or 4, I think 3 or 4 or 5 of them, different, so 30 minutes a piece. And they are from different departments, AWS, and, telling them what I'm going to do for them. This is what I can do for you. And this is how it is going to go. there was their CTO. Was it CTO? Yes. One guy was their CTO. He showed up to the interview. I just didn't like him. Just didn't like his face, his demeanor, how I'm like, so soon as we were done, they were like, yeah, Dr. Edu, so, we really are happy about this. We want, I'm like, nope, I'm not doing this. They're like, oh, but you are going to be the one helping us to do this. I came up with a whole plan and a whole structure of they didn't have anything cybersecurity. We're going to build everything from scratch. I didn't do it. I'm like, nope, I'm not going to work with that guy. And 6-7 months down the line, I got an email or like a text from a contact in the company. They're like, yep, we fired him. He was, running the company down. I'm like, yeah, I saw that in 5 minutes. Took you guys like almost a year to figure it out. I just didn't. And if I was interviewing and that guy was going to come and work for, I thought I wasn't going to work for. Like, even if he was the most qualified. His demeanor, and it's not just like me being picky, but I'm a very open-minded person, and I like everybody. But this guy, his demeanor and how, and no, I mean, that just didn't sit well. I'm like, nope, not it. Right. So I'm going to keep stressing on that. They will pick somebody they like. Make yourself likable. Right. It's not somebody they know or somebody from the same race or somebody with the same name. Is somebody they like. You can be white, they can be black, you can be blue, they can be orange. If you are likable, you are likable. It doesn't matter your race, your gender, your country of origin. Make yourself likable. Right. So if you are somebody who don't smile that much, learn how to smile at least during the interviews. Right. So I think for everything that we talked about tonight, some of the questions we are probably going to email out, so you can take time and go through and rehearse and practice with it. But if there are any questions from the group, you can kindly bring it up whilst we are starting to wrap up for tonight. Right? Any questions? Any interview tips or tricks that we didn't talk about, or anything that you wanted to know more about during interviews? And also, I think the contacts, if you put the request in, for those who were putting in the request for our panel members, I think most of them, probably we sent their numbers to the panel members and they reached out to them. So if you need to talk to some of these folks who got jobs already, they are more than ready to also help you and walk you through as well. So any questions for the group whilst we look through the chat? Michael is joining us from Vancouver, Canada. Joe, Michigan. We have Enoch from Connecticut. Atlanta, Nicholas. Cleveland, AC from Cleveland. And then we have some team lives, Rosie, Seth, and Rosie, Maryland. And we have Seth all the way from Ghana. Okay, Seth. Great to have you on here. It's almost like, I think, what, midnight or 1 a.m. in Ghana. Are you Deji from Virginia? Sorry if I got your name or messed up. And the list goes on. Okay, Bismarck from the Bronx, and Team Live, Houston, Donald, Houston, Jason, Japan. Good morning, Jason. And okay, I think that Jones, New Jersey. Appreciate everybody's time. We put the links in there, so if you want to make an appointment to talk, if you want to enroll in any of the free courses, all the links have been put in there. So we are wrapping up for tonight. Appreciate everybody's time. Hopefully you learned or you had something for your toolbox. So like I always say, when you join Cyber Chat, you are going to go with something for your toolbox. But before we wrap up, I think Shongo, kindly go ahead and we will wrap up for tonight.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Adu. For those of us who's requiring to take our Security Plus exam, how do we get our Eretmis discount?
Okay, so we can talk offline. We will purchase the voucher on your behalf, and then we'll give you the voucher number. So reach out offline and we can talk about that one.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, okay. And there are some questions in here. I think somebody was asking if they can use TA. No, so we are unable to accept TA at this time. And I said that I don't think there's. Okay, Jones was asking, please, these questions are for what role? Oh, Jones, so the question, I think if Joel want to answer, the questions that I was reading, majority was from Joel. I think Joel is a security analyst role or something on those lines. But the questions that we're looking at, they are general questions, right? Regardless of the role, you are going to, these are soft skills questions that you are going to encounter, right? And we didn't jump straight into most of the technical questions because they will differ from job to job. But the strategy of answering these questions remain the same. If you use the STAR method, you are never going to go wrong. If it's a technical question or if it's a soft skills question. And I gave a really good scenario for you, so you can always bounce it off that, like the scenario that I gave, come up with something like that, and you should be good to go, right? So on that note, Alex, please go ahead.
Yes, Dr. I do thank you for this introduction. It was really good. I just want to make sure, is this recorded? Because
Yes.
we are joining. Okay, thank you so much. That's what I need to know.
It is being streamed directly on Zoom, and then also we are going to post the recording when it's ready. Hopefully, maybe tomorrow morning.
Yeah, because I'm in the class with their internship right now, and I just want to make sure that they are catching on. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, Alex. And for all our interns, we are meeting, our normal meeting times still remains the same. And we are going to meet tomorrow for our internship in the morning. I appreciate everybody's time. Kindly, the links have been posted for the conference. Kindly go ahead and click on the link and show your intent for the conference. The more numbers we get, the better it's going to be for us in terms of planning. Right, Jamal, please go ahead, and we are going to sign.
Okay, and yeah, I'm sorry, I just had to ask because what is the CBOT course? Is that starting? When is that
so the CBOT, let's talk offline. That was supposed to start, but we had some technical issues. So I know you are part of that. So yes, let's talk offline. And we have it even structured better now. So we will talk more about that.
Okay, I'll wait for you to reach out to me then. I know you're busy.
Okay. All right, everyone. Have a great rest of the evening. And for folks who are looking to join the ranks of the cybersecurity professionals, our cybersecurity entry-level course is the place to be, right? So kindly go to Eretmis academy.com, and all the information and all the courses are there. If you've not taken any of our free courses, cybersecurity for beginners, if you are starting off from zero, PCI for beginners, also you can take that to learn more about PCI, and then also the internship and others. They are also there for you to go through and see what they actually cover, right? So on that note, I appreciate everybody's time. We are going to meet next week, same time. Have a great weekend and stay safe.
You too, Dr. Du. Take care.
Bye, everyone.